While unveiling what he calls the country's oil industry roadmap last week, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachukwu, had said the $10 billion being committed to the development of the Niger Delta would not necessarily come from government, but from oil companies, the private sector and individuals. While the government has really not expatiated on the funding, something for a start, the government has to lead the way.
I would expect the government to lay a solid foundation before the private sectors can now come in and begin to invest. I can even spend as much as $100 billion. But if the government refuses to spend in the Niger Delta and expect these same private individuals or the oil companies that have been in these places, that have consistently neglected these places, and they expect them to come spend funds overnight, I think it will be difficult to achieve.
With Nigeria currently in recession and seeing its revenue cut by over a third as a result of low oil prices and militancy in its oil-rich Delta region, the country faces a struggle to fund the $10 billion development plan. It's the more reason why the oil minister has been saying the oil companies and private sector will do much of the funding.
They've made it sound like they're bringing 10 billion naira to inject into the Niger Delta right now. No. $10 billion. What they are proposing, that's all it is at the moment, a proposal, is $10 billion over a period of 10 years, which most probably will translate into $1 billion per year. If it takes off, when it takes off, because we must remember that the Ogoni cleanup, for example, was announced within the first week of the president's assuming office. And it was kicked off formally well over 6 months ago. Nothing has taken place to date.
Billions of naira had been spent in the past in efforts to develop the Niger Delta. There are several agencies and a government ministry charged with the development of the region, but all their efforts over the years have not made much of a difference on the ground.
It got to a point where elders from this region saw opportunities, saw these platforms or these agencies as opportunity to enrich themselves. You find out that the contract is awarded to a man to construct a road in his village. Even though in some cases the price is overinflated, and yet the job is still not done, and nobody is prosecuted, no questions are asked. You see, rather, mansions are springing up from places where there are no roads.
Despite the daunting challenge ahead, the government remains optimistic that it would be able to genuinely address the development challenge of the Niger Delta this time round. Minister of Petroleum Ibe Kachukwu is pretty confident that the challenges would be surmounted, and already he's been setting new targets. He says by the middle of next year, there'll be zero militancy shut down in the oil industry, and that by the beginning of next year, the country's oil production will ramp up to 2.2 million barrels per day. It's quite a tall order, but he says it will happen. Deji, Badmus, CCTV, Lagos, Nigeria.